Hey there, my name is Kelly Dale and I'm owner of Off the Beaded Path located in Forest City, North Carolina. Today I'm going to be teaching you a new technique out of Carol Cypher's book called Mastering Beadwork, and I'm going to be working out of page 104, and I'm going to be teaching you how to do a double spiral. Now for the pattern today, you're going to need 2 colors of a 4mm round. The pattern specifically calls to use 75 of each color, but if you have a bigger wrist or a smaller wrist, you may need less or you may need more. You're also going to need 2 colors of a size 11 seed bead. These are going to go in between your 4mm beads, and then you are going to need a size 6 seed bead. This is going to be the center or the core of your bracelet. You're also going to need a closure. You're going to need like a size 10 or 12 beading needle, whichever you're comfortable with. And you can either use like a 6-pound thread. I probably wouldn't go over that because you'll have a hard time getting back through some of the beads, but probably like a 6-pound fine line would be fine. So get your materials together and let's get started. So I'm ready to start my project, and these are the colors that I'm going to be using today. My size 6 seed bead is going to be a bronze. This is going to be the core bead or the center of my bracelet. My next 2 beads, which is a size 11 seed bead and a 4mm round, are going to be what I'm going to call my color A segment. For my color A segment, the 11 seed bead is called Gold Lustered Lavender, and the 4mm round is called Opal Lilac. For my B segment, which will be these 2 beads here, for the size 11, I'm using a silver lined pale gold, and for the 4mm round, I'm using a powder magenta. Now the great thing about this project is if you're working and you can make a little sample of what you're doing to see if you're going to like your colors. Here I have stitched up a little sample so that I can actually see if I'm going to like the colors that I have picked out to work with. And it'll also allow you to be able to see kind of how the colors will lay and be. This is my color A segment here. You can see the lavender and the opal lilac. And as it spirals around, then you can see segment B, which is the gold and the powder magenta. Now in the center, you can see your size 6 seed bead. Now this right here is only about 3/4 of an inch. So you can pretty much tell by the time you've got this much done whether you're going to like your colors or not. If not, simply take off what you don't like and switch out your colors. It's no biggie. But don't get further than that and decide to change your colors, because you'll have a rough time with it. So when you're ready to start, what you'll want to do is thread a needle onto one end of a piece of fire line. Now I'm using 3 yards of fire line. You will want to use as much as you feel comfortable with using, because you will have to add on thread. So again, 3 yards on my needle. I'm going to pick up 4 size 6 seed beads to start. This is my core or the center. Now the first segment I'm going to pick up is segment A. Both segments are going to have the same counts. It's just going to be segment A is one color, segment B is another color. So for segment A, I'm going to pick up 3 size 11 seed beads, 1 4mm round, and 3 size 11 seed beads. In the book, Carol calls to just add 2 seed beads before and after, but when I did it, it was kind of tight to the base and I didn't like it as much, so I just added 1 more bead to have 3 beads on each side of it. And I'm going to pull it down and leave myself about a 12-inch tail. I want a tail long enough that I can go back and add the clasp at the end. So from the tail, working towards the thread, or my working thread, I'm going to come up through just those 4 size 6 seed beads that I had added on at the very beginning to start with. And I'm going to hold these beads in place, and I'm going to grab a hold of the little tail here with my pinky so that I can kind of hold it down. And I'm going to pull the thread. so that when I pull it, this is what I have. Now to start the next part of my spiral, I'm simply going to flip it to where when I'm looking at it face on, my segment A is going to be to the left here, and then my segment B is going to be on the right. So to start segment B, I'm going to pick up 3 size 11s, 1 4mm, and 3 size 11s. Now, I'm not going to add a core bead on this one. I'm just picking up my beads, and I'm going to come back through all 4 of those same core beads again. And I'm going to pull. So that when I do, I have segment A here on the left, segment B is on the right. Now, I'm going to flip it to where when I'm looking at it now in front of me, my segment B will be on the right and my segment A will be on the left. So again, when you finished, segment A was on the left, segment A, Lord, I'm getting myself confused. Segment A was on this side. Segment B was on this side. So all I'm going to do is simply turn it to where it'll be opposites. Okay? So when I finished adding segment B, it was like this. So all I'm going to do is turn it to where segment A will be, or segment B will be away from me now. Now, I'm going to pick up 1 core bead, and then 3 size 11 segment A's, 1 4mm, and then 3 size 11 segment A's. I'm going to let all of this drop down to the base, and I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come up through the top 4 core beads. So that will be this one here that I just added, and then 1, 2, 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm not going up through this last one. I'm just going to go up through 3 and then through the 1 that I just added for a total of 4 beads. And I'm going to hold that in place, and I'm going to pull the thread, and you will want, when you pull, you'll want that new piece to go on top of the old piece there. Now I'm going to turn it to where my new beads that I just added will be here between my index finger and my thumb, and I'm going to add a segment B. You will always add a core bead on segment A. You will never add a core bead for segment B. So I'm just going to straight pick up 3 size 11 B's, 1 4mm B, and then 3 size 11 B's. Take the needle, and I'm going to come up through the top 4 core beads. So it'll be the one I added in the previous step, and then the 3 below it. Now here's the thing. You do not want to pull these core beads super tight, or you're going to have a really hard time getting that needle through your beads. And as you work, you'll understand what I'm talking about, because it does become very tight. Okay, so now these were the beads that I just added here. I'm simply going to turn it so that now A is on my working side. So remember, when you pick up your segment A, you always pick up a core bead, 3 color A11s, 1 4mm, and 3 color A11s. And you let all those beads drop down to the base. I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come up through the top 4 core beads. So here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So take the needle, wiggle through there, and go through those top 4 beads and pull. Make sure the new segment goes in front of the old segment. Turn it. We're on segment B now. I'm not going to pick up a core bead. I'm just going to pick up 3 size 11 B's, 1 4mm B, and 3 size 11 B's. And I'm going to take the needle and come up through those same 4 core beads that I just came through. So you'll want to wiggle your needle through to get in there. And this is why I say you don't want to do these really tight, because if you do, you'll not be able to get back through and you will be fussing and it won't be a good day. So I'm always flipping the beads I just added. I'm flipping them to the left so that I'm constantly kind of just working on the right here. If you're left-handed, just flip it the opposite way. It's no big deal. Okay, I'm back to my A's now. So I'm going to pick up a core bead, 3 size 11 A's, 1 4mm round A, and 3 size 11 A's. I'm going to let them drop down to the base. I'm going to take my needle, come up through the top 4 core beads, which is the one I just added, and then 3 more. So 1, 2, 3. So take your needle, wiggle through there, and pull. Take the ones you just added, flip it to the left, and you're ready to add a segment B, which is 3 size 11, 1 4mm, and 3 size 11s, and you're going to come up through the top 4 core beads, and as you can tell, it's going to take you a little while to kind of get through these core beads. That's why you want to use a pretty stiff needle, because you'll have an easier time kind of getting through them. And then just pull. And now I'm going to flip it to the left. And I'm going to continue on adding a segment A and a segment B all the way until I get the length of the bracelet I need. And I'm going to do it about an inch less than what I need, because then I'll have to come back and add my closure. So you keep on working and I'll keep on working on mine. Okay, so at this point I've been working on my bracelet about an hour. This is how much I've got done. So you can see this is not a really quick process, but it's a really pretty process. So I ran out of thread, or I'm almost running out of thread, and I'm going to show you this is my way. It doesn't mean it's the right way, and it doesn't mean it's the way you should do it, but this is just my way of adding on the thread. What I do is I take my new piece of thread and my old piece of thread, and I'm going to put the 2 ends together, and I'm going to take and I'm going to tie these into a knot. Now I'm going to take these 2 ends here and I'm going to tie those together and pull good and tight. So now when I pull, that knot doesn't move. Now I am not going to trim these tails completely off. I'm going to take and trim them just a little bit, just so they won't be as long. But I'm actually going to stitch this into my work as I work. You can do this really well at this point with this kind of knot, just because of the fact that you're using a size 6 seed bead in the center, and it'll be really easy just to pull that knot on through. Otherwise, I would do a couple of half hitch knots and then start a new thread and stitch out to where I need it to be. So now I will just start again with my normal stitching, just stitching my tails in with my work. So now I have my bracelet completed to the length that I want, and I'm ready to add my closure. Now you can add any kind of clasp that you would like. For me, I'm going to use a pearl clasp just because I had an extra one laying around. Wanted to do something kind of neat with it, so that's why I'm going to use the pearl clasp. So I have come out of my last core bead here on the end, and I'm going to pick up 3 size 11 color beads, which is my gold, because I'm going to do a gold clasp. And I'm going to go through the loop here of my clasp, and then I'm going to pick up 3 more seed beads. And I'm going to come back down through 4, let's see, now back down through 5 of my core beads. And it'll take a little maneuvering, but you can get it through there. Now, once I've gone down through that, I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come up through my set of A's, which is coming out right here next to that core bead. I'm going to come up through the top core bead and then through all 6 of those seed beads again that I just added. All I'm going to do is just reinforce this loop a couple of times so that I get a good stabilization for the piece. And again, I'm going to go back down through 5 core beads. And the reason I'm coming down through 5 is so that when I actually get ready to come up through a set of A's, it will be the set of A's right before this last bead here. And that's exactly what we want. Okay, once I've gone through it a couple of times, then I'm ready to go ahead and tie the thread off. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and stitch up through a few beads on one of my loops. I'll go under the thread between 2 beads, leave myself a little loop, stick the needle through, and pull. This is called a half hitch knot. I'll go through a bead or 2, do a knot, and then stitch through a few more beads. And I'm going to stitch through and do this a couple of times. This is just something that I like to do. I like to do quite a few little knots to make sure nothing's going to come apart. So I'll do some knots through here. And then once I've done some knots and I've finished out, then I'll take my cutters and I'm going to trim that excess thread off. Okay, once you get this end put on, if you realize the bracelet is either going to be too big or too small, then you can come to the other end, and if it's going to be too big, you can take off a few beads. If it's going to be too small, just put your needle on your tail thread and just stitch through with the tail thread and add more rows just like you normally would. So what I'm going to do is thread my needle onto the tail end, and I'm going to pick up 3 seed beads, and if at all possible, I'm going to leave my clasp closed while I do this part so that I don't do it the wrong way. So I'm going to thread through the loop here of the clasp, and then I'm going to pick up 3 more seed beads. And again, just like I did the other side, I'm going to come down through 5 core beads. And if you can't come through them all at one time, just go through as many as you can go through, and then get through however many you need to get through. And then once I've gone through that core bead, I'm going to go ahead and come back up through the set of A's right next to where it's exiting, up through that very first core bead here on the end, and then through the 6 seed beads that I added. And then I'm going to go back down through my core beads again. And now I'm ready to tie off the thread. So I'll take and stitch through a few beads, do a half hitch knot, stitch through a few beads, do a half hitch knot, stitch through a few beads, and then I will stitch through before I trim off the tail. Now you'll want to go back through and check and see if you had any little extra tails sticking out from where you added on thread, and I don't believe I do. Nope. So now my bracelet is complete. So I hope that you have learned now how to do the double spiral. I hope you enjoy it. Be sure and check out our website, which is offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com, for more of our videos, or check out our Etsy site, which is listed at the end of this video, for more tutorials, kits, and great products. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.